Welcome to the Exploring New England podcast with Ryan Zipp, where each week I will be talking about what makes this historic region such an amazing place to enjoy. From the scenic views to road trip ideas to where to grab the best eats and much more. Let's get going. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Exploring New England podcast with me, Ryan Zipp. As I was jotting down a few notes before recording today's episode, it just hit me 12 and I was like, wow, we're 3 months in now already. Do not know how 3 months has gone by. It was I guess mid-March, and got this going, kind of planning on stuff for upcoming spring and further, and just kind of having a bit of an outline of what I was going to try to do with this. So wild to think 3 months has already gone by in the sense of however many episodes we're at now, but also just the fact that we're basically on the doorstep of summer, which is wild. This year is flying by. So in the last few episodes, I've talked about a bit of the lupine chasing season for us photographers and other tourists alike here in New England. And this year, like some of the other blooms, they seem to be a tad early this year. So, like every year is different, just like with the fall foliage and some other blooms, you kind of never know what to expect. And if you have to plan far ahead, you really just have to make an educated guess. So, this past weekend was the plan to initiate the chasing for this year. And as you saw in some of my posts, and also I spoke about here last week, the usual kickoff for me anyway, 3 of the last 5 years was up in Sugar Hill, New Hampshire, the tiny town in the White Mountains. And, the times I went, it was still kind of low key and wasn't, I didn't see anything crazy, but apparently last year, especially when I did not go, there was a number of people just trespassing, stomping on people's fields, et cetera, et cetera. So ended up leading to several property owners mowing some of the main bigger fields this year. So I decided to not head that way. Just wasn't feeling up to it. Kind of felt like it was some weird vibes there this year. So I hope the people that actually were still promoting the celebration there, some people in town, everything's been going well, and others who have gone have gotten to, experience some of those views still. So I had wanted to still head up to the White Mountains. It had been close to a year and a half since I had been up there, just the way the schedule played out last year for me and this winter. So I decided to, still head up and just kind of look for some new views, whether with the lupine in them or not, and looked at it almost as just like a few day getaway in the mountains, and obviously, hopefully, capture some great photos too, but just wanted to enjoy the time there. I feel like over the years on a lot of trips, I've stressed too much getting these shots or the perfect shot or shots, and the last year or so just trying to still do that, but also just enjoy the process, enjoy the trip, enjoy the views more, and just everything in general, and don't be so hard on myself. So I hit up my buddy Jim Salgi. He lives up in New Hampshire, fellow photographer like myself. He's also a meteorologist. He's a science teacher now. He's a really smart guy, and you may recognize him from all of the Yankee Magazine fall foliage reports. He's been doing that for a number of years now. So he's the man. If you don't follow him, make sure to go over and do that. I believe his Instagram is Jim Salgi Photo. On the YouTube, I'll put up a screenshot of his account right here. But yeah, definitely a great guy, and he's the man. He always, if I have questions, obviously about those related topics or just some stuff in New Hampshire, he's definitely my go-to guy. And we kept in touch right before I left, and also while I was up there. So he kind of put me on a few possible areas that might have the lupin blooming, and also just some other good spots for views, some wildlife, bird sanctuaries. I checked out a few of those as well. So I really appreciate that. And it was nice to check out kind of some new areas up there in the White Mountains that I hadn't really cruised before. And then obviously do the old standards that I've enjoyed on my trips there over the year. So yeah, just wanted to recap that trip a little bit. Headed up on Saturday afternoon, just after closing up my store at 4, and it was just about a little under a 4-hour drive, and decided to go for sunset at Lake Shokura. I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, it's funny. There's a number of things up there that it's never quite sure the correct pronunciation. So, and I've heard both ways, just like Lupin, Lupine. I've been told it's Lupin, so that's what I'm rolling with. But Shokura, it's a lake there. It's also a mountain, but it's a really beautiful lake area, like a little bridge you could park and then walk over to. And the sun was setting right behind the mountain there, in the lake, distance of the lake. So I got there like right in time. The sun was just a little bit above the mountain, so immediately hopped out with camera, started firing away. There was a few guys in a two-person canoe that were paddling around a bit, so it made for a cool scene to have the mountains, the lake, setting sun, and also another foreground subject. So I'm sure you've kind of heard me before say it. A lot of my posts, I don't typically have people in my shots. I'm trying to step out of my comfort zone a little more and do it. In this case, they were just more of a little, another little small piece of the overall scene. But I feel like stuff like that does make the overall photo better than if it wasn't there. Also provides more depth to the image, which always makes it more interesting and keeps people's eyes on it longer, which is what you want as a photographer. Um, so yeah, so it happened quick. Was firing shots there, and then not long after, the sun dipped down below the mountain, and captured a few more before dark, and then making my way to where I was going to stay that night. And since I'd be getting in late, there was also, when I was planning this, there was a chance of some northern lights being there that night, even though that report ended up, tailing off, and then always a chance for some Milky Way. So I wanted to stay somewhere that night that I'd be able to get over to some spots possibly. So I ended up at this kind of older hotel in there. It's called the Kankamagus Swift River Inn, and I ended up. The owners were super nice. They actually started building it in 1978, right there on the Kank, and they've owned and run it ever since. So couldn't have been any sweeter. So it was a great stay if you're looking for a spot in that area, kind of like no nonsense, clean rooms. They had an assortment of kind of breakfast stuff, snacks to get you going. Um, and then got out early that morning. I knew it was going to be clear days without clouds, which it ended up being, which makes it tough for photos. So I wanted to get out with some early light. But this time of year, it's wild. By 7:30 a.m. or a little, there's no clouds. The light's already harsh, which is tough. So you really need some help when it comes to a little bit of overcast and a little bit filtering of that harsh light during the day for a huge chunk of it this time of year. But I just took the time to cruise around and enjoy some old views. It's not always a great ride up 302 through Crawford Notch. A lot of great stops there. It's obviously a lot slower than the usual trip up there in the fall, so it's nice to actually be able to pull over whenever you want. And the majority of people that were there were parked and off hiking. One of the tons of different trails that are all through the mountains there. So it was nice just to be able to pull over, you know, um, grab a shot of any views or just taking it with my eyes. Drove through there, was able to drive the Bear Notch Road between the Kank and 302, which is closed in the wintertime. Forget exactly when it opens and closes. But it's a great road. You have a number of different overlooks there to the mountains. So don't forget that. If you're just up there, don't just do the Kank and 302. Also stopped there. Yeah, hit up a lot of the other classic views. Um, the Mount Washington Hotel, also the Crawford Notch train station, which is another spot where a lot of people park to hike, but has the old station there. I think they sell souvenirs in there now. But I shot that in the winter last time I was there. It was a really cool scene. And yeah, just driving that road is awesome. It was 82 and sunny, so windows down, sunroof open, music on, just enjoying it, like I said. And the direct harsh sun made it tough for photos and keeper photos, especially. So I just enjoyed it and took some shots as well. Haven't really gone through much yet, so we'll see what I end up pulling out of there. I think my favorite photos of the trip probably were of the night before when I just got up there, of the sunset over the lake with the uh the canoe paddling around. So I'll have to go through more of those, see if I pull out any that I like. I'm definitely always my own biggest critic, and the longer you do it, the tougher it is to get these like keeper images that you're super proud of. So, which also makes it that much more rewarding when you actually do get them, which you hope is more often. So, and then midday there was some clouds rolling in a little bit. So at that point, I wanted to try to take advantage of it, and I got over to some different roads that Jim had recommended to me for the Lupine, and I ended up finding some, and it was more just trying to find a composition that I was happy with. The clouds didn't really stay or do too much, unfortunately, and so I messed around with a few scenes and got some cool shots. Again, definitely tough on myself, but finding these kind of new scenes that I've never shot before with them was rewarding in itself. So definitely, if I get back up there that time of year, I'll roll back through and see if the conditions happen to be any better. Um, then I always like driving Route 16 north from Conway area. There's a lot of great winding roads and views through the mountains there. And when you get to the top at Gorham, it's a little small town area. And I feel like almost every trip there, I stopped down at the White Mountain Cafe. It's like coffee shop, sandwiches, bookstore. So I picked up a shirt this time. I like picking up stuff from my journeys and supporting the local businesses. Besides, just getting food and beverages if possible. So it's always good to stop in there, pick up. They have like smoothies also as well. It was so hot, I grabbed one of those this time. But then eventually made my way back to Conway area. I was staying in a little different hotel this night. Decided to spoil myself a little bit. I got a room at the North Conway Grand Hotel, and that's basically right where all the outlets are. So it's right on the main strip in North Conway. So you have, there's every outlet of higher end stuff. You have REI, then you have Hello Bean, tons of restaurants. So I ended up staying there for the night. So I checked in. That was trying to come up with a game plan for sunset. It was looking like, if you look at the sunset predictor for the area, it was showing a high probability of a good sunset through most of New England. And I ended up settling on the Interval Scenic Vista. And from there, you look out, and it's an amazing view of all these mountains and layers, and Mount Washington in the background. And the sun was going to set just to the left of where the mountains really started layering. But if it was anything like they said, it would have been a great scene. So did a little more driving around, nothing really specific as far as targets, but came back about an hour before sunset and positioned myself there. And it always cracks me up. It's still there. There's actually an old school payphone there in the parking lot of that overlook, which it's rare to find them these days. I didn't grab a quarter to see if it still worked to call myself or somebody, but just neat to see it up there. And I had visions of if it was this crazy wild sunset sky, using that as the subject would have been pretty neat. But as it got closer to sunset time, definitely there wasn't many clouds. It was pretty thin. Sun dipped behind the mountain like it always does there before actual sunset time. So just ended up hanging out. It was only like a 8-minute drive back to the hotel, so I wasn't in any rush. And I was glad I ended up waiting because a few minutes after sunset, whatever clouds were there did end up lighting up pretty good, like a bright pink. So if there'd only been a little more of those clouds, it would have been a wild scene. So, but I can't complain. At least got a little color. It was better than a total dud. So, and I had to sneak a shot of said telephone booth again. Not really a booth. I'm sorry, just a payphone. But yeah. So it was a nice way to end my second and last night there. Both, and the weather was unbelievable. It was hot during the day, but at night it was beautiful, like in the 60s, and just out there in t-shirt and shorts. So felt amazing. And the next morning it was just bright sun off the bat. So I ended up not getting up early. I was tired from the day before. I was like probably in my car like 11, 12 hours or something driving around, which I enjoy, but I was a little shot. So before I made the trip back home to Connecticut, I didn't want to just, pile it on and get up early. So relaxed. It was a nice big comfy bed there. And yeah, and then when I checked out, I headed over to Big Dave's Bagels, and it was good. I got like this bagel, bacon, egg, and cheese on it. So I'd say for a New Hampshire bagel, it was pretty good. So I enjoyed it. The people there are always really nice. People working there, so talked with them for a bit. Ended up giving them one of my calendars. I had a few extras in the car because they were asking me what I was doing up there, and yeah, and then so I was fueled up, grabbed a coffee as well, and then started the drive back and kind of planned a little route through some of those towns south of the Whites, between there and Lake Winnipesaukee. And it's a real pretty area. It's like definitely the types of scenes that I like. You see a lot of them in Vermont. These really small, quaint towns. You have some churches, barns, lakes, great reflection scenes if the conditions are good. So I took a little winding route down through some of those towns, and it definitely had me thinking like I need to try to fit in a fall foliage trip in that area. If I can make it work, we'll see how timing works out, but I don't really have much from that area, so it would be great to go enjoy and add to the collection. Then got to down to Lake Winnipesaukee and drove the edge of that for a little bit through Meredith, and then just ended up hopping on more of the highways and started making my way home. Probably about 3.5 hour drive home from there. So overall, great weekend. It was a nice pivot away from the original plan, and ended up being great. And I think I got a few cool shots, but overall, it was just nice to be back and cruising through the mountains. So now here we are. I think it'll be June 6th when this airs. And from what I've seen, the Lupine everywhere, like peak or close to peak. In some areas are even starting to get past already, which seems like stuff's a good week or so earlier on average than the last handful of years since I've been following it. So if you've been thinking about getting anywhere, I wouldn't wait. I would definitely try to get somewhere this weekend. And the weather is looking a little better when I checked tonight than it was yesterday. So pretty sure I'm going to be heading up to Mid-Coast Maine area. My buddy Jack from Boston will be up there as well. I'm sure some of you follow him, Jack Darrell Photography. So if not, give him a follow. He's based out of Boston. Very good dude, good friend of mine. And so we'll make sure to connect a little. We'll overlap. He'll be up before me, and I'll be staying a little bit after he goes back. So, but we're fellow lobster roll fans and experts, I dare to say. So I'm sure we'll have to have at least one together while we're there, and hopefully find some great Lupin views, maybe some new ones, and hit up some old ones with some better conditions than in previous visits. So I'm looking forward to that. But again, just stressing to everyone that they're definitely on the slightly earlier side this year. So if you've been thinking about going anywhere, I would not wait. I would get there sometime in the next week or less. Because who knows? And even if they're not yet peaked, they're going to be close. And if you wait the extra week, they'll start to be that past and kind of getting brown and not as photogenic at all. Um, so yeah, so hopefully next week I have some good stories about the trip up there, and hopefully some good finds to share with you guys. And trying to think what else for some upcoming episodes. I was trying to brainstorm today just to think what's coming up. We have more blooms to go still. Roses are blooming everywhere. Jack shared a reel today of some spots in Boston that were looking like close to peak. So if you're in the Boston area, definitely follow him for all sorts of ideas and current status. But whatever stuff's going on there is probably in bloom. I'm gonna try to check out some local stuff, see what's happening with like Elizabeth Park in Hartford. I've never been there for the roses, so I'm gonna try to time that, see what that's going on. So keep an eye out there. They usually peak around mid-June, but again, it might be a little early this year. Um, then I'll probably talk a little about last year. I got to Nantucket for the first time during 3 different seasons, and one of them was right at the start of summer, kind of, when the rose blooms were going on there, on all the cottages, and just beautiful time. So I'll share some stuff about that in the next few weeks. Then we have hydrangea season, which is huge in New England, especially coastal. So talk about some spots that are known for that, where you can go. We're also now less than a month away from 4th of July, so highlight some towns, cities that do up some kind of traditional celebrations, fireworks, of course. So that's kind of what to look forward to, I'd say, for the next 3 weeks or so. We'll see how it all plays out. And like usual, I'll be giving some recap stories of trips I've been on since you guys last listened, and also ideas and outlining stuff that's coming up. So we'll keep that going. And I hope you guys have been enjoying this. Like I said, we're 3 months in, and it's anything new. There's going to be ups and downs, and I've gotten most of the technical glitches out of the way. Feel more comfortable in front of the mic and camera, I'd say, at this point, because it's weird because it's just me doing all this. Like, it's me. There's no one behind camera A or camera B or running the microphone. I have to basically test everything out one at a time, make sure it's going, and then all right, start the recording for the mic, start the recording for camera 1, start the recording for camera 2, then sit down, make sure all the lighting's good, and then hopefully everything records the way it's supposed to. Then stop. Then I have to load everything into Adobe Premiere, edit it all down, and then upload it and get it out there on the audio versions and the video versions for you guys. So it's a lot of work, but it's been fun. I like having something that kind of keeps me in a bit of a regimen each week with it, because this whole like journey with photography and traveling around with it, it's not as just a physical journey, but also it's just this process of kind of finding what I want to do with everything and other avenues for what I'm into. And this is just something I hope you can tell that I'm like truly passionate about, and been doing this now since like 2017 and just more into it every year. And it really is what kind of, fuels my creative passion these days. And, it used to be being a musician, and now this is it. So, yeah, it's been fun. And it's been a little tough, obviously, with like, Instagram and social media the last like, month or two, really clamping down on the whole reach and engagement. It's tough. Barely, I'm lucky if 5% of my followers see my average post. So it's been hard just to share my work and also share the promo for this, because people just aren't seeing it. So some people might not even know I'm doing this at all, or just a reminder that there are new episodes up. So, you just got to push through it. So if you're a creator in any shape or form, or doing a business, like, just know that if you're dealing with this, you're not alone. Me and many other photographer friends are talking about the same thing right now. So just got to push through it and just keep doing what you love. And I guess that's what I'm doing here. So yeah, excited to see how the next 3 months go. And hopefully you guys will keep tuning in. And, like I say at the end of a lot of them, make sure to share with friends, family, anyone else who you think, loves New England and might enjoy checking in and joining up with us on this adventure. I'd really appreciate it. So, wherever you can give a good rating, do so. Thumbs up, YouTube, subscribe, like, comment. It's just gonna kind of help me keep growing this thing, and we'll see where we'll take it the second half of this year. So, thank you again for tuning in. Appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next week.